Hello there, I'm Scotty, you're not. Welcome back to Dis-Cember 2023, and today we're looking at Get a Clue from 2002, released on the Disney Channel. It is a Disney Channel original movie. And apparently, so I'm just trying to get this straight, this thing is. It was the last of Lindsay Lohan's three-picture deal with Disney, her first run at least, with Parent Trap, Life Size, Parent Tramp, not Trap. No, Parent Trap. I don't know why I said Tramp. Parent Trap, a Life Size, and then this. Of course, she would come back and do like Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen and Herbie Fully Loaded. Later, was older, and I'm not ashamed to admit that Lindsay Lohan was one of my childhood crushes. I mean, she's only a year younger than me, so I had hope, and then her career came crashing down, didn't it? I mean, she's doing better now, of course, but you know, she hit that negative, she hit the bad road that some child stars unfortunately do. But she seemed to bring herself back up, so she's doing better than Britney Spears, I hear. But yeah, so this was a Lindsay Lohan starring film, and I am to admit that it is a little feminine. I mean, it is very much. I mean, I'm wearing a pink shirt, so it works. But it is very girly. But what drew me to this was not only Bug Hall, who was in the Little Rascals, and will go on to be in what's it, Book of Love? I think he's in that one, the American Pie Book of Love movie. But he drew me in, and I like a good mystery. I saw the trailer on Disney Channel and saw it was going to be a mystery movie. And I'm like, okay, this could be something. So watching this now, I discovered something while watching this. I looked at special features. What special features are there? There's an alternate ending. So after I watched the movie, I put on the alternate ending. We'll talk about it. So the story here is that Lexi Gold, played by Lindsay Lohan, has gotten her first byline, front page byline in the school newspaper, much to the chagrin of her editor, Jack Downey, played by Bug Hall. After this, though, one of the teachers who was in the byline, disappears. His car is found in the ocean, and it begins a mystery of what happened to him as the kids try to figure out, or teenagers, whatever, try to figure out what happened to their teacher. So that is the plot crunch for you peoples out there. It has a pretty decent cast, You have Lindsay Lohan, like I mentioned, in Bug Hall. You also have Brenda Song, who would be in every Disney thing ever in the 2000s. And then you had Ali McAlachlan. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I know him best from Radio Free Roscoe, the Canadian show that aired on the N, which is now Teen Nick. You have Lexi's father is played by the dad from the Girl Who Cried Monster episode of Goosebumps, so I know him from. And then you have Charles Shaughnessy of The Nanny playing a character named Meanie in this. Ian Gomez, who I've seen on Who's On It Anyway and various other projects. Amanda Plummer from So I Married an Axe Murderer. She's in this, and she's not the villain, And I'm pretty sure the guy who played Mr. Goldblum I've seen before too. It's not Jeff Goldblum, no. So yeah, there's a lot of actors that I knew in this. And so there is a difference between our two leads. Lexi was very much born into money. She lives on the fancy side of things in a fancy apartment. They own the whole freaking floor. And she gets primped and servitude and all that stuff. Well, Jack, he lives in Brooklyn. And Bug Hall does a fantastic Brooklyn accent for him. I think it works at a hopper. What part of your brain do you stole this information? What part of your brain do you stole this information? That kind of Brooklyn accent that he does. It works. I'm a bit ashamed to say this, But, back when I had hair, I tried to style it. Because his hair he has it kind of down in the front and the sides. I tried to do that and my hair wouldn't work. My luck, now I can pull off Ian Gomez's hair. Mr. Walker. I look up Mr. Walker. So, yeah, like I said, Lexi gets her first byline in the paper picture of Mr. Walker, played by Ian Gomez, and Miss... What was her name? Not Miss Stern. Forget her name. But she's played by Amanda Plummer. So, Miss Dawson, played by Amanda Plummer. And they sort of had this... Well, they romance thing going on. A romance thing going on. But after the picture come out, all of a sudden Miss Walker was like, I don't love you. Things changed. I've changed. I'm done. And then she sort of threatened him. Was like, one of us has to leave this academy. It's not going to be me. That sort of thing. And of course, Lexi, and we find out Jack overhears this, and then Mr. Walker goes missing. So now this detective with a obviously fake mustache shows up. Why did they do it? They do it for a joke. Where Lexi says to get rid of the knobs. That's all that it's good for, is for that joke. And then later he shows up without them. But yeah, so detective shows up, and Lexi, of course, tells him about Miss Dawson and all that. And so then the kids decide to do their own little investigation thing. They have Gabe, who is Ali Machalum's character, and Brenda Song. Because Gabe apparently lives across the street from Miss Dawson. So they're going to use a camera to spy on her. And then Jack and Lexi go to Brooklyn to Mr. Walker's apartment. Now, here's the thing. So I get what they're doing with the character of Lexi. She's very prim proper. She's very rich and spoiled. So she's got to be thinking that everything normal is icky and ooey. And she misjudges Jack. Find out that Jack lives in Brooklyn. And his mom. I'm going to praise this a bit because I think it works. They didn't get some... I'm not saying the actress isn't attractive, but you could get this very hot actress to play the mom, and they got a very normal looking woman, and that works. Like, you look at the actress playing Lexi's mom, and she's this very gorgeous model type woman, and if they hired an actress that looked like that to play his mom, even if they tried to humdrum her down, I don't think it would have worked. Here she's very heavy set, very corpulent, like they say in the Super Mario Brothers. Woman, very normal looking woman, and it works. Nothing against the actresses or having a beautiful mom. Sometimes you gotta have a hot mom. Who knows? And he has Mr. Walker's old computer. So first of all, they go to Mr. Walker's apartment and they look around. First of all, they see Miss Stern walking around there, which plays into something later. And then Miss Stern is another teacher of theirs, I should mention. Mr. Goldblum is the supervising teacher of the school newspaper, I guess. So they see Miss Stern, and then they go snooping around. They find a briefcase with the initials NP on it, and then a detective named Detective Charles Meany, played by Charles Shaughnessy, shows up and starts asking questions, and they kind of get out of there. Lexi thinks that he's a fake detective because of what kind of clothes he wears, because he's wearing expensive clothes. Look, there's a lot of I'm going to wear this, and I'm going to wear that. And I said Jack's sentiment when he says, who cares? Because there's a scene where they all reconvene at Lexi's apartment, and we're talking about Meany's clothes. And she's like, oh, and Brenda Song goes, what was Miss Stern wearing? And Leslie goes, well, and Jack goes, excuse me, but who cares? Exactly, who cares, right? Who cares what they're wearing? She wears the same green frumpy dress everywhere anyway. So, after they go back to Jack's place. He has a computer that was given to him by Mr. Walker. They find an email that was that is dated 4 days earlier, but was sent 1 day earlier. So they're like, it's very confusing. And so he looks up information, like kind of information on the computer. I'm not exactly sure what he does. He hits a few buttons. Information pops up saying that the computer belonged to a Nicholas Petrosian. So they after reconvening, they decide to look up any Petrosian they could find. He does look up a Charles Meany. There's a Charles Meany in New York, which does play into the alternate ending. It's a private detective, but it's really confusing in the theatrical ending. We'll get to it. They look up an address for Petrosian, his mother, who lives in Brighton Beach, New York. I always thought they went all the way to California. Brighton Beach, like New York. I'm like, oh, it is New York. I didn't think there was a place with a beach in the name in New York, but there it is. So Jack and Lexi go to check it out, and yes, they're getting closer romantically, but it's not overly done. It's just like, oh, they like each other. There's even a whole scene that really got me when Jack informs her about the address, because it starts off, they walk in and they're talking about clothes and stuff, and Brenda Saunders goes on and on and on and on and on talking about clothes, and then it drones out so Lexi can have her thoughts heard to us, and all she does is talk about Jack this, Jack that. I really like hanging out with Jack. What am I talking about? The whole teenage girl thing of, I was never a teenage girl, but okay, I don't know teenage girls. But, you know that kind of thing. When you're a teenager, you're worried about everything. Even guys, we get pimples, Guys, we act confident, right? But we're as worried as girls are, as women are, right? Sometimes we're more worried than women are, but we act all confident, cocky, like we know what we're doing. But 99% of the time, we don't know shit, right? I'm just saying. So that's when he comes up and tells them about the address. They find the address. There's this woman, older woman, obviously wearing a wig, and Mr. Walker is there. Now, a part of me would like it if they entered the door, if they knocked on our door, it was just Mr. Walker. Because the way they do this is the mom pops up, and she's like, oh, no, I never heard anyone by that name. No. And he's like, let him in, Mom. And it's just like, okay, I understand he knows it's his students, but he's just going to let him in. He explains that back in the 80s, he used to work as an investment banker. And then one day, he got framed for embezzlement and had to go on the run. Nicholas Petrosian was dead. Orlando Walker, who was a teacher, he took his place in life. And now, because of Lexi's picture, that's so out there, and the person who framed him is after him because the money that they stole disappeared. They could never find it. He doesn't know what it was, right? Although it's painfully obvious when it explained what happened. I thought, oh, maybe that's what's different in the alternate ending. No, it's just a different person that did it. So they set up this meeting arrangement at a hotel. And this is where the endings are different, okay? I'll talk about the theatrical ending first, okay? So first of all, there's a thing with Lexi and her younger sister. You don't get along with younger siblings. By the end of the movie, they're okay. I gotta say, it's better than Stevie in the last one I did. She's at least tolerable, where Stevie is one of those kids you just want to... I'm gonna yell, yelling out, ow, Alex is hitting me. But he didn't do nothing. And even when the dad walks in, they're standing this far apart. Oh, yeah, he hit him and then jumped back. Okay, yeah, okay. But that's little brothers, right? Fellow older brothers, you always get in trouble for stuff your little brothers are saying, right? Even though you didn't do anything. Happened to me quite a bit. Especially since the father figure I had was his father. So because I wasn't his son, automatically he took his son's side. And he was treated, my brother was treated like he could do no wrong by that guy. And then he had a sad reality when that guy was gone. We'll just say he was gone from our lives. He's not dead, but we'll leave it at that. Some people wish he was, but I'm not going there. But sad reality. Anyway, back to the movie we're talking about. So, we set up this thing where they're going to meet at this hotel. And these four dumbass teenagers walk in all dressed to the nines, right? They got the shades on, they got these things. And they're just, these four kids walk in, and I'm going, this is inconspicuous. How did it, there's even an old lady that goes, those kids are up to no good. No shit. Anyone would think that, right? And what is their hiding spot? Jack sits there reading a newspaper, right? While the other three hide behind bushes. Or plants. Potted plants, right? And this is where we get the arrival of our characters, right? We see that Mr. Goldblum walks in. And Brenda Saunders yells out, "It's Mr. Goldblum!" How did nobody hear that? And then Miss Stern is there. And Miss Dawson. Miss Dawson's the first one that walks in, actually. And Mr. Walker tries to get up. And I said, no, don't do it. They got little ear butt thingies. No, don't do it. You don't want to expose himself, right? And then we got Mr. Goldblum, Miss Stern, and Mrs. P, right? All showing up, you know. And then we get revealed that the villain is Weenie. Weenie, Weenie, Weenie. Weenie, 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 Weenie. No, Meanie. Of course it is, because Charles Shaughnessy can play a great villain. And he's great. We have a chase scene, right? After they figure out him, and I do love this. He's talking to him, he's like, oh, I give you half now, and half later. Half? What are you talking about? And then who are you working for? And then, by the way, a New York cop with a British accent. I'm pretty sure in his first scene, he's trying to hide it like he's trying to be American. But the rest of the movie, it's just not. It's just not. Not. Probably because it was a reshoot. Talk about it. So, they go, they chase them and they find that there's two different stairways, one going up, one going down. So, Gabe and Brenda Song go up, and Lindsay Lohan goes down with Jack, and they go down. And they end up finding him downstairs in the boiler room. He's not Freddy Krueger. And he turns on the pressure steam. Steam comes out, and Lindsay Lohan just so happens to get her bracelet stuck on something, and Jack has to come in. And every time I watch this, I expect her to go, oh no, that's worth whatever amount of dollars. That's worth $100,000. That's worth $75. So, $100. I can't imagine she wearing $100,000 bracelet around a teenager. Parents might be spoiled. Who knows? Anyway, they lose her, and there's a chase all around the place. They do find him. Not him. They find Miss Dawson. Lexi goes in, finds Miss Dawson. She was lured there in a trap because that was the thing that Miss Dawson was going to have to pay if Mr. Walker didn't. So they get upstairs and they're chasing this guy around. Oh, Brenda Song and Gabe are on another bunch of different floors. Not in order, by the way. They go like floor 9, then floor 15, and then like floor 7, floor 22. I'm like, why are they just going to random floors? What is this? But they're not anywhere near him because he's obviously the other way. Right? So they find him and they chase him around. But, there's like security going on. By the way, there's also a homeless man that we saw earlier in Brooklyn wearing a coat, that Lexi said was Mr. Walker's. That plays into things because the chase goes around, and it ends up he is being chased by security guards, and he ends up going into a press conference thing where Lexi's dad has to be. Turns out he's a city councilman that was undercover. So why couldn't you just go, hey, it's me, the city councilman. I'm undercover. Okay? I don't know. Because we had to have this chase. And so he went undercover in Brooklyn to show, so he could find out what it's like to live in poverty. And apparently that coat was the only thing he received from the people, from Mr. Walker, when they never have any sort of encounter in this movie. We never see them talk later. And hey, that's the guy. No. Then Meanie shows up. By the way, Meanie is actually Granville, the guy who embezzled the money and framed Petrosian. Mr. Walker, whatever. So Jack uses his smarts to knock a cart into this thing where people are carrying a cake on. The cake falls onto him, and the police arrest him for fraud and embezzlement because the cops just seem to know it was him. Somehow they just know it's him. Okay. Then we get wrap-ups of the characters. So, there's a moment where they sit with Mrs. P. We're just here with my grandmother to get rid of the guards, but So, Mr. Goldblum and Miss Stern were meeting each other because Mr. Goldblum liked Miss Dawson, but she didn't reciprocate the feelings. And then Miss Stern liked Mr. Walker, but he didn't reciprocate the feelings, so they liked each other. So now they like each other, and they're gonna be dating each other. Miss Dawson and Mr. Walker are gonna be together. Miss P is so happy about this, and then Lexi's dad runs up. Oh, and the detective got rid of his knobs, his mustache. Yeah, and then we find out what happened to the money, because they're about to arrest Mr. Walker too, because they couldn't ever find the money. Turns out, in one of the most obvious things ever, that they kept to the ending because if they showed it beforehand, it would be obvious what it is. But, from the reaction when you hear me and you go, half, you can tell that it's not something you can split in half. So, Lexi notices this brooch that Mrs. P has on. And it turns out the brooch holds a very rare canary diamond worth, wait for it, $10 million, which is the exact amount of money that went missing. It was embezzled. So, what happened was Mrs. P found it underneath a chair in a little paper bag. She found it, and they couldn't figure out who it belonged to because the next day, Mr. Walker was on the run. So, yeah. Turns out Granville took the money out of the account, bought this diamond with it, and was intending on taking off with this, keeping it, putting it in a safe deposit box so it was safe. And when he lost it, he framed Mr. Walker for it. Maybe he framed it beforehand. I don't know. But, yeah. Oswald, it ends well. And then Lexi gets her byline in an actual paper now. And Mr. Walker has a question to ask Miss Dawson. Yes, they get married. And we have one last little thing. Calls back to earlier when we were talking about bowling, where she buys Jack some bowling shoes. She's like, oh, they go bowling. Oh, I can't wear other people's shoes. Some people, they buy their own shoes. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they have their own socks and underwear too. I love that line. He's so good at being sarcastic with this. And it ends with the theme song. Get a clue, live inside of you. The alternate ending. Let's talk about the alternate ending. In the alternate ending, Meanie is actually a detective, and it's actually Miss Stern. In an ending that makes no sense at all. I'm glad they reshot the ending because the original ending, the the reshot ending, the one that they aired on Disney Channel, I say theatrical, whatever, was much better. This one, it's Miss Stern, who was an ex, someone who had a thing for Mr. Walker back when he was Nicholas Petrosian. Some nerdy girl that changed her ways and looked more bougie, And she framed him by embezzling the money and buying the diamond and I'm sorry, but do you want this to be the villain? The actress is terrible. She's too over the top with her performance. At mine! It's just, no, too much. It's too much. No, it was a good idea to switch it to be Meanie, or Granville. Because in this version, Mr. Goldblum gets the shaft. He's like, oh, Mr. Goldblum was there. Why was he there? Did he follow Miss Dawson? It's never explicitly why. And Meanie is also there. Oh, he's a detective who has like his own private stuff. They explain that he has lots of money, and that's why Lexi thought he wasn't. But he's a very rich private detective. Which Jack was right on that account. But yeah, it makes more sense if it was Meanie. It works better if it's an old boss of Petrosian's that screwed him over, and not just some old girlfriend. Like the boss would have the means necessary to do all that, extort the money and all that stuff. Where and his next girlfriend, really, it just doesn't make any sense. But here's the thing: the alternate ending is very tediously a 22-minute alternate ending you have to sit through because it's everyone. It starts from when they show up at the hotel. Everything is done just like before, but they're in different order. With Miss Stern coming last instead of Meanie. And then you have the whole chase around, everything, finding Miss Dawson, sitting with Mrs. P, everything, and then the reveal, and they even do the wedding, and the whole friggin' end credits, which is not that long because it's the TV credits, but still, the whole, when I say ending, usually when you have an alternate ending, it's like 10 minutes, maybe less. It's just an alternate ending, right? This whole thing has been 25 minutes because they cut it before they go in there. They rearranged everything. Right? By the way, they say Meanie is a private detective. So if he was actually a private detective in the original cut, who is he working for? Because private detectives, they work for people. They don't just go out there and they're not assigned stuff by captains or anything. They're private detectives, which means someone's got to go to him, say, hey, I need you to look this up. Who is it working for? Miss Stern? Maybe? Maybe Miss Dawson? Mr. Goldblum? I don't know. Now, they do say that Mr. Goldblum had a thing for Miss Dawson, but I don't know. But I'm going to say it's pretty good. And I actually really enjoyed this watch. I found myself laughing a lot at some of this stuff, some of the goofy 2000s styles that they had. Like, the girls have, like, every time these girls walk into school, they had this big bang, 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 music thing with them walking. Like, it starts with like, okay, if you're a guy and you're trying to watch this, the beginning of this is not going to work because it starts with Lindsay Lohan and Brenda Song waking up and talking over some weird head computer thing about what outfit they're going to wear for the day. And yes, I can see if you're a guy, it's going to throw you off. But I will say it is fun to watch. I think I showed this to my son. I don't think he was too much interested in it, but I think towards the end he was. It's really the mystery elements that get me, because I love a good mystery thing. I love a good whodunit. That's why I don't want them to. People keep saying change the way the Scream is. Like, I've heard people. Jason Smith, right? I watched his Slasher Sunday on Scream 6. He says he would have liked a version of Scream 6 from the point of view of the killers. And while that is interesting, what draws me to the Scream franchise, not only the meta humor and the characters, but the whodunit nature. I want to try to figure out during the movie whodunit. If we start off by revealing the killer, like when I saw the first scene of Scream 6, I'm like, okay, this is a fake out, right? Better be, because no, I don't want to do it that way. Other people saying that they should do a New Nightmare type sequel where it's the real life actors are being hunted down one by one by killers, and like that would be fun to do after we finish the story. Like, give us one more movie, give us a Scream 7, right? Finish off the story of these characters for good, make that the last one maybe, and then do some meta stuff. Do one from the point of view of the killers. Do one that's meta like New Nightmare, that sort of thing. Yeah. But anyway, what are your thoughts on Get a Clue? In the comments, so much like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.